The Crothlin fleet arrived over Virex 9 with the confidence of an empire that had never been refused. Their ships slid out of folded space in perfect formation, immense hulls bristling with weaponry, their shadow swallowing the planet's rust-colored horizon. Energy shields flared briefly as they stabilized orbit, then faded, as if to signal restraint. This was supposed to be easy. It always was. Within minutes, the broadcast went out on every frequency the Empire knew how to dominate. By decree of the Crothlin Galactic Authority, this system is now under Imperial jurisdiction. All human installations are to power down and prepare for integration. Compliance will be rewarded. Resistance will be erased. 6 planetary hours were granted. More than generous, by Imperial standards. From orbit, the human mining colonies looked dead. No traffic. No frantic launches. No return transmission begging for time or mercy. Just silent structures clinging to a hostile world. High Strategist Zalketh observed the display from the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, his clawed hands folded behind his back. Silence, to him, meant fear. Fear meant inevitability. "Begin ground deployment," he said calmly. "They will break once they see our boots on their soil." Far below the fleet, beneath kilometers of stone and reinforced alloy, Captain Aaron Cole checked his watch. 2 minutes, he said. The command room of Forward Operating Base Liberty's Reach was dim, lit by soft instrument panels and tactical overlays projected directly onto the rock walls. The base was not large. It was not impressive. It was functional. That was enough. Ranger Detachment Echo 7 stood ready. No one paced. No one fidgeted. Weapons were already checked. Seals tested. Ammo counted twice. The kind of preparation that came from habit, not nerves. Cole moved through them without ceremony, his presence steady rather than loud. He stopped near Sergeant Lewis, who was adjusting a shoulder plate. "Status?" "Green across the board," Lewis replied. "Empire sensors still blind in our sector. Patrol routes unchanged." Cole nodded. "They think we're scared." A few quiet smiles followed. Nothing theatrical. Weeks earlier, long before the Crothlin fleet arrived, Echo 7 had been inserted onto Virex 9 under the cover of routine security rotations. Officially, they were advisors. Unofficially, they were the first line. Human intelligence had been clear. The Empire expanded fast, crushed resistance faster, and relied on overwhelming presence to avoid prolonged conflict. They didn't plan for enemies who refused to be impressed. A junior ranger glanced at the orbital feed, watching alien dropships descend in neat, arrogant lines. "They're landing heavy," he said. "They always do," Cole replied. "Means they want to be seen." He tapped the display, bringing up a schematic of the planet's sensor grid. Several nodes blinked yellow. "Phase 1, he said. "Quiet." A fire team moved out through a maintenance shaft that led deeper into the crust, then up toward a forgotten survey tunnel. No alarms. No rush. Their target wasn't a base or a ship. It was a relay tower the Empire had deployed hours earlier, meant to give them a complete picture of the surface. They never got one. The Rangers reached the relay under cover of a dust storm that would have crippled less prepared troops. The wind screamed across the rocks, gravity pulling at every movement, but they worked with methodical precision. Charges were placed. Systems were spoofed. When they left, the relay still stood, lights blinking, transmitting nothing of value. Back at Liberty's Reach, Cole watched the node flicker from yellow to green. "Relay's blind," Lewis confirmed. "Empire thinks it's atmospheric interference." "Good," Cole said. "Let them get comfortable." On the Eternal Dominion, a junior officer approached Zalketh with hesitation. "High Strategist, surface sensors in Sector 9 are reporting irregular data flow." Zalketh did not turn. "Virex 9 is a crude world. Adjust calibration. Humans are not known for subtlety." "Yes, High Strategist." The officer retreated, relief evident in his posture. No one wanted to be the one who suggested caution too early. Empires did not reward doubt. Hours passed. Imperial troops established visible camps near the human colonies, banners raised, armor polished. They expected protests. They expected defiance or panic. They received neither. From underground, Cole observed the occupation unfold. "They're setting up command nodes within our envelope," Lewis said. "Let them," Cole replied. "Mark everything." Rangers tagged targets, logged movement patterns, noted response times. The Empire's discipline was rigid, predictable. Their confidence showed in their spacing, their routines, their refusal to conceal themselves. Cole keyed his mic, voice calm. "Echo 7, remember the rule. We don't rush. We don't improvise unless we have to. They're stronger. They're bigger. That doesn't matter." A pause. "We decide when this starts." One of the Rangers chuckled softly. "Guess that means it already did." Cole allowed himself a thin smile. "Exactly." As the 6th hour approached, the Empire transmitted again. This time, the tone shifted slightly, irritation seeping through the formal cadence. "Human authorities. You have failed to respond. This is your final opportunity to comply." The message echoed across empty facilities and silent comms. Underground, no one answered. Instead, another relay went dark. Then a fuel depot vented harmlessly into the atmosphere, its safety systems overridden with elegant efficiency. An Imperial patrol failed to report in, its last transmission cut mid-sentence. On the command deck, Zalketh finally turned toward the data feed, his brow ridges tightening. "Why are my reports delayed?" he demanded. "Unclear, High Strategist. Minor disruptions. We are investigating." Zalketh stared at the planet below. It did not look threatening. That, perhaps, was the problem. Back at Liberty's Reach, Cole watched the same world with different eyes. He saw routes, choke points, shadows. He saw time. Lewis stepped beside him. "They're committed now." Cole nodded once. "Good," he said quietly. "They always make mistakes after that." He checked his watch again, then looked up at his team. "Phase 2 goes on my mark," he said. "Until then, stay ghosts." Above them, an Empire prepared to enforce its will. Below, the Rangers were already set. The Crothlin ground forces advanced at dawn, their deployment timed to coincide with Virex 9's brief calm between storms. Dropships cut through the sky in rigid lines, engines roaring, armor gleaming with ceremonial precision. They landed openly, deliberately, making no effort to hide their movements. This was not an invasion meant to be fought. It was meant to be witnessed. Captain Aaron Cole watched the descent from a narrow observation slit carved into stone. "They're building a parade ground," Sergeant Lewis muttered. "Not a perimeter." Cole lowered his optics. "That's doctrine. Presence over protection. Works great," Lewis said. "When nobody shoots back." Cole didn't answer. He was already shifting focus, tracking supply carriers peeling away from the main force. Fuel, rations, power cells. The unglamorous pieces that made conquest possible. "Mark those convoys," he said. "We start there." Echo 7 moved before the order finished echoing through the channel. Teams broke off, disappearing into tunnels, ravines, and mineral scars left by decades of mining. No one ran. Speed wasn't the objective. Timing was. The first convoy never reached its destination. Imperial logistics officers would later report a delay caused by terrain instability. A landslide, triggered at precisely the wrong moment, buried the lead transport. The rest halted, procedures activating exactly as written. Defensive perimeter. Drone deployment. Scan and secure. They followed the manual. The Rangers used the pause. From elevated positions the Empire hadn't considered accessible, Echo 7 struck fast and silent. Precision fire disabled escorts. A single charge ruptured the fuel carrier's containment field, venting its contents into the air in a controlled plume that burned itself out harmlessly. By the time Imperial drones recalibrated, there was nothing left to see. No bodies were found. That unsettled them more than casualties. Back at Liberty's Reach, Cole listened to the after-action report without comment. "One down," Lewis said. "They'll notice. They'll rationalize," Cole replied. "Until they can't." The next day, 2 more convoys vanished. Different locations. Different methods. One disabled electronically its guidance systems, feeding false telemetry until it drove itself into a ravine. Another simply stopped transmitting, its last signal caught in a burst of static the Empire's analysts couldn't decode. Patterns mattered. Cole made sure there weren't any. Imperial patrols increased. Troops moved in tighter formations, weapons powered, sensors sweeping constantly. Their discipline was impressive. Their adaptability was not. "They're clumping," Corporal Hayes observed over comms. "Scared units stick together." "Means fewer angles," Cole said. "Wait for it." The opportunity came sooner than expected. A patrol of 12 Crothlin infantry moved through a narrow pass near an abandoned drilling site, armor scraping stone. Their scanners struggled with the planet's magnetic interference, feeds flickering just enough to irritate but not alarm. Echo 7 had mapped the pass weeks earlier. The ambush lasted 9 seconds. Suppressive fire pinned the lead elements. Precision shots dropped the rear. The center never had time to respond. When it was over, the Rangers were already gone, leaving behind scorched armor and unanswered questions. For the first time, survivors fled. On the Eternal Dominion, High Strategist Zalketh listened as reports stacked up in uncomfortable silence. His command staff shifted uneasily, mandibles clicking in subdued agitation. "These are not accidents," one advisor said carefully. Zalketh's eyes narrowed. "Humans lack the coordination for sustained resistance. You are overestimating them." "With respect," another officer added, "our losses are becoming difficult to obscure." Zalketh turned slowly. "Then obscure them better." He dismissed the council and stared at the tactical display alone. Icons flickered. Supply lines pulsed red. The planet no longer looked quiet. It looked wrong. Back underground, the Rangers felt the shift. "They're changing posture," Lewis said. "Shorter patrol cycles. More drones." Cole studied the updated feeds. "Means we're inside their head now." Hayes chuckled softly. "Never thought I'd scare an empire." Cole glanced at him. "Don't confuse surprise with fear. Fear comes later." The weather turned against the Empire that night. Gravity pressed harder. Winds howled across the surface, turning dust into blades. Crothlin troops struggled, movements slowing, joints locking under strain their physiology wasn't built to handle. The Rangers adapted without discussion. They had trained for worse. Another relay tower went blind. Then another. Imperial communications began to lag, orders arriving late or garbled. Unit commanders made independent decisions, something Imperial doctrine discouraged. Confusion spread faster than panic ever could. A Crothlin platoon attempted a night sweep near the mining colony's perimeter, hoping to restore control through presence. They never made contact. Their emergency beacon activated briefly, then fell silent. The Empire began deploying heavier assets. Walkers. Gunships. More troops. Cole watched the orbital count climb. "They're reinforcing," Lewis said. "A lot." Cole nodded. "Means they think numbers fix this." "And do they?" Cole didn't answer immediately. He keyed his mic, opening a channel to all Echo 7 elements. "Listen up," he said. "They're committed now. That changes nothing for us. Same rules. Same discipline. We don't get bold. We get precise." A pause. "We don't fight them where they're strong. We fight them where they assume we won't be." Acknowledgements rolled in, calm and immediate. Above them, Zalketh issued new orders, frustration bleeding through his control. More troops. Faster timelines. He would drown the problem in force if necessary. He did not yet understand that force was exactly what the Rangers wanted him to spend. Cole closed the channel and looked at the map one last time. "They're stepping deeper," Lewis said. "Yes," Cole replied. And every step cost them. He checked his watch, then allowed himself a brief, humorless smile. Good, he said. Now they're committed. The Empire stopped calling the losses anomalies. By the 7th day, denial became impossible. Entire units were missing. Supply schedules collapsed into guesswork. Command updates arrived late, stripped of clarity, riddled with gaps that no algorithm could explain. The occupation was no longer a display of authority. It was a liability. High strategist Zalka stood alone before the tactical hololith, watching red markers spread like a slow infection across Virex 9. Explain, he said quietly. The officer nearest him swallowed. We cannot establish a stable front, High Strategist. The humans are not engaging conventionally. They strike logistics, command, recovery teams. We respond, and they are already gone. Zalcutha's claws flexed. Then fix the response. We are trying. That was the wrong answer. Down on the surface, Captain Aaron Cole studied the same chaos with a soldier's detachment. To him, it wasn't disorder. It was momentum. They're chasing ghosts, Sergeant Lewis said, crouched beside him in a shallow cave carved by ancient mining equipment. Pulling units off objectives, scrambling to plug holes that don't exist. Cole adjusted his scope, watching a column of Crothlin armor move into a canyon they had deliberately left untouched for days. They think they're regaining control, Cole said. That makes them predictable. The canyon was narrow, its walls jagged and unstable. Virex 9's gravity made every movement costly, every mistake final. Imperial doctrine would never choose terrain like this. That was precisely why they had been nudged into it. Echo 7 had spent weeks preparing the site. Charges embedded deep within the rock, disguised beneath mineral deposits. Firing angles calculated down to the meter. Escape routes mapped and rehearsed until they were muscle memory. Cole keyed his mic. All teams confirm. One by one, acknowledgments came back. Calm. Focused. Execute on my mark. The Crothlin regiment advanced in disciplined formation, walkers in the lead, infantry following in tight ranks. Sensors swept the canyon, returning clean readings. No heat signatures. No movement. Zalcutha's officers would later point to this moment as proof that the humans relied on luck. Cole raised his hand. Then dropped it. The canyon came alive. Explosions rippled along the walls, not outward but inward, collapsing stone with controlled violence. The lead walkers vanished beneath tons of rock. The rear convoys halted abruptly, boxed in by falling debris. Communications died in a wash of interference as jammers activated. Before the dust settled, the Rangers struck. Fire came from above, below, angles the Crothlin hadn't considered possible. Precision shots disabled weapons, joints, command units. The regiment tried to respond, formations breaking under pressure they had never trained for. It wasn't a battle. It was a dismantling. Within minutes, resistance collapsed. Those who survived dropped their weapons, confusion overriding pride. Cole moved through the aftermath with measured steps, weapon lowered but ready. The air smelled of scorched metal and disturbed stone. Rangers secured the perimeter, checking each other first, then the prisoners. Casualties? Cole asked. None, Lewis replied. Couple of scrapes. They never saw us coming. Cole nodded, then turned to the captured officers, their armor dented, eyes wide with something close to disbelief. You planned this, one of them said, voice trembling through the translator. You knew we would come here. Cole met its gaze. You follow patterns. We follow people. The prisoners were escorted out, blindfolded and silent. They would be moved underground, interrogated carefully, efficiently. Not for revenge. For information. Hours later, in a secured chamber beneath Liberty's reach, Cole watched as one of the officers finally spoke. You were never meant to negotiate, it said bitterly. Your species was classified as compliant or disposable. Integration was optional. Lewis exhaled slowly. Good to know. Cole said nothing. He already suspected as much. On the Eternal Dominion, Zalketh received the casualty report in full. No euphemisms. No filters. An entire regiment gone. Not defeated. Erased. The chamber felt smaller than it ever had. This is no longer containment, one advisor said carefully. This is war. Zalketh's mandibles tightened. War requires an enemy with structure. These humans refuse structure. They are adapting faster than our projections. Then update the projections, Zalketh snapped. Commit additional forces. I want this ended. But High Strategist. Another voice cut in, hesitant. Other powers are watching. Prolonged losses may invite. Zalketh silenced them with a glare. The Empire does not negotiate with insurgents. The advisor lowered their head. Of course. Back on Virex 9, Echo 7 felt the shift immediately. Orbital traffic spiked. Heavier assets descended. The Empire was bleeding, and bleeding things became dangerous. They're angry now, Hayes said, watching new dropships burn through the sky. Cole studied the data feed, eyes sharp. Anger leads to mistakes. Lewis glanced at him. And mistakes lead to. Cole finished the thought. Conversations. That night, an Imperial transmission broke through the interference. Not a demand. Not a threat. A request. Carefully worded. Polite. Framed as a mutual interest in de-escalation. Cole listened to it once, then muted the channel. They're talking, Lewis said. Yes, Cole replied. Which means it worked. He looked around the command room, at the Rangers checking gear, sharing brief nods, already preparing for the next phase. Tell command we acknowledge receipt, Cole said. No response yet. Lewis raised an eyebrow. They won't like that. Cole allowed himself a thin smile. They don't have to. He turned back to the tactical map, fingers tracing the next set of targets. They're hurting, he said quietly. Let's make sure they understand why. The request for negotiations arrived wrapped in ceremony. Encrypted, formal, and painfully deliberate, it cut through the chaos-choking Imperial channels. The Crothland seal pulsed on the display inside Liberty's reach, ancient and authoritative, its language softened to a tone that pretended equality. Captain Aaron Cole listened without expression. By authority of the Crothland Galactic Empire, the message concluded, we propose immediate discussions to prevent further loss of life and restore order. Silence followed. Sergeant Lewis folded his arms. That's new. Yes, Cole said. Means they finally counted. United Earth Command acknowledged receipt 6 minutes later. Nothing more. No acceptance. No refusal. Time deliberately wasted. Above Virex 9, High Strategist Zalketh watched the delay stretch, each second gnawing at his composure. Reports continued to arrive while he waited. Another fuel depot lost. A gunship squadron grounded by system failures no engineer could trace. Troops refusing patrol assignments without armored escorts. Fear was no longer subtle. They are ignoring us, an advisor said quietly. Zalketh's claws scraped the console. They are buying time. Yes, the advisor replied. But not for negotiations. The realization settled like ice. On the surface, Echo 7 was already in motion. Cole stood at the center of the operations room, final mission parameters glowing around him. No speeches. No ceremony. The Rangers didn't need either. Empire flagship is vulnerable, Lewis said. They pulled internal security to reinforce ground operations. Cole nodded. Overextension. Extraction window is narrow, Hayes added. If this goes loud. It won't, Cole said. Not the way they expect. The plan was audacious only by Imperial standards. Insert a small team into the Empire's decision core, sever coordination, collapse command confidence. No destruction. No grand display. Just absence. The Rangers moved through the planet's upper atmosphere disguised as debris, their insertion masked by the Empire's own traffic congestion. They breached the flagship through a maintenance corridor Zalketha's engineers had never considered vulnerable. Too small. Too insignificant. Inside, the Eternal Dominion felt sterile, pristine, over-controlled. Automated systems hummed softly, confident in redundancy. That confidence vanished node by node. Cole moved with the team, steps measured, rifle angled down but ready. They bypassed checkpoints, looped cameras, fed false readings into systems that trusted data more than instinct. Lewis tapped his wrist display. Command uplink compromised. Proceed, Cole said. At the heart of the flagship, Zalketh stood as alarms finally began to whisper. Not scream. Whisper. Systems reported delays. Internal confirmations failed to return. Orders echoed unanswered. What is happening? He demanded. Before anyone could respond, the lights dimmed. Not off. Just enough. A voice replaced the alarms, calm and human. High Strategist Zalketh, Cole said over the internal channel. You wanted to talk. Zalketh froze. Identify yourself. Captain Aaron Cole. United States Army Rangers. You are aboard an Imperial flagship, Zalketh said, disbelief edging his words. This is impossible. Cole didn't raise his voice. You assumed we'd ask permission. Zalketh straightened, forcing authority back into his posture. Cease your actions. We are prepared to negotiate favorable terms. Negotiations, Cole replied, happen before you lose control. Zalketh gestured sharply to his officers. Restore systems. Seal decks. Nothing happened. The silence answered for them. You miscalculated, Zalketh said, anger bleeding through. Your species cannot sustain this conflict. Cole paused, as if considering it. We're not trying to sustain it. On Virex 9, Imperial forces felt the change instantly. Orders stopped coming. Coordination dissolved. Units froze, unsure whether to advance, retreat, or wait. The Empire's strength, once centralized, became its weakness. Lewis's voice came through Cole's calm. Ground forces are breaking formation. Full confusion. Copy, Cole said. Begin withdrawal. Zalketha's composure finally cracked. If you destroy this vessel... We're not here to destroy anything, Cole interrupted. Just to show you the cost of assuming we wouldn't show up. The flagship's systems rebooted partially as the Rangers disengaged, slipping back the way they came, leaving nothing damaged beyond repair. Nothing except certainty. By the time Zalketh regained full control, Echo 7 was gone. The Empire transmitted again within the hour. This time, there was no pretense. Immediate ceasefire. Full withdrawal. Recognition of human sovereignty over all settled systems. United Earth Command accepted. On the surface, Imperial troops lifted off in uneven waves, discipline eroded, banners lowered. No final threats. No grand speeches. Just departure. From Liberty's reach, Cole watched the last ship break orbit. They're leaving, Hayes said softly. Yes, Cole replied. They learned. Lewis leaned against the wall. Galaxy's going to hear about this. They already are, Cole said. He gathered his team, issuing final orders. Equipment packed. Traces erased. Liberty's reach would be abandoned, leaving behind only rock and unanswered questions. As Echo 7 prepared for extraction, a final message arrived from United Earth Command. Well done. Humanity's position is secure. Cole closed the channel without responding. Praise wasn't the point. Hours later, as the Rangers lifted away from Virex 9, the planet returned to silence. No banners. No fleets. Just a death world that had swallowed an empire's confidence whole. Somewhere in the wider galaxy, analysts would argue about tactics, technology, and doctrine. They would debate how a minor species had forced a superpower to retreat. They would miss the simplest truth. Humanity hadn't begged for peace. They had prepared for war. And by the time the Empire asked to talk, the Rangers were already set.